someone who's forced, I think would be the proper term, to speak as often as he is, Sidney Crosby's not exactly the type to spill out everything that's going through his head. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. Comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. The Penguins begin a 5-game homestand tonight against the Golden Knights. That's a 7:08 p.m. face-off at PPG Paints Arena. And that game, I can say with confidence, will mean something to the captain of the home team. How do I know that? Well, let's just say I spent a little bit of extra time with him when covering the team over the weekend in St. Paul, Minnesota, and everything about him, words, deeds, the 2 goals he scored, this big, goofy, childlike, not all that Sid-looking smile that he had when he skated through the bench for the fist bumps after the first goal. The way he carried himself around the many new guys that are on the team. Sid being Sid, making sure they know the way, making sure that they're comfortable with him despite his living legend status in the game. But yeah, it also had something to do with what he said to me about the importance of the team continuing to perform the way that it did on this trip through the final 15 games that remain on the schedule. Now, you can roll your eyes about the trip since they went 1 and 2, but the reality is, when it comes to things that they can control, meaning how well or not they play, they commanded 8 of the 9 periods on that trip, the only exception being the 3rd period against these Golden Knights that they're going to be seeing again tonight. He liked that. That made him happy. I could detect that. He liked the way, and brought up, incidentally, the way the penalty kill operated in St. Paul. Might have been their game of the year for that unit, even though they had 2 guys who just walked in off the street and participated in Connor Dewar and Connor Timmins. Sid's not part of that group. Really liked it. He's aware of what's happening. Kyle Dubas doesn't run to Sid and ask for his permission for moves. He doesn't run to Sid to see what he thought of the moves, but there's a communication, and it's constant, and it's respectful. And maybe more than anything else, it's mindful, and legitimately so, that it doesn't work without Sid. There's a lot of people, and man, this makes me uncomfortable, who will paint this out to be some sort of do right by Sid mission on the Penguins' part. Hurry up, get something here. Get these super younger players out of here and replace them with somewhat younger players so that they can fit with Sid now while he's still here. Hurry, do it. Make Sid happy. And to Dubas' credit, that's not how he's looking at it. How he's looking at it is that I, the general manager of the team, still have Sidney Crosby on my roster. I still have that. I am still blessed to have this money in the bank, point a game, top line center, world-class leader, everything. I have that. I, the general manager, want to pounce on that while I can. I'd be crazy not to, because no matter how brilliantly I pull off everything else in this plan, I'm not going to end up with a Sid in 5 years. I'm not going to end up with a Sid in 10 years. I'm not going to end up with a Sid ever, other than the one that I've got. And Sid knows that. Sid's been told that. Sid likes what's happening. He sees everything, not just on the ice the way you're thinking. He sees everything. Like the baseball players I cover, they're all like that. It's crazy. There's just nothing that's missing their eye. I don't know what it is about baseball that makes those guys like that, but they are. Sid is that way. He knows about all the young players in the system. He pays attention to them directly, personally, in those camp settings when they're around. He texts the draft picks. He stops into Cranberry to meet them. He watches them, maybe more importantly than anything else. He's aware of what they do well, what they still need to work on. what their potential might be in the NHL. And he likes this. He likes all of it. I really, really, really became convinced of that in St. Paul. That is carrying its way around the people who matter the most in the room. Listen to what Brian Rust told me after beating the Wild 3-1 with all that good penalty killing and everything else. When I asked if this was the way the team needs to conduct itself over these final 15 games.
I think big time. Obviously, hit a lot of adversity there, and then especially that second period, we had to kill off a lot of penalties, made a lot of big block shots. But I think in here the rest of the way in the season, I think the guys who have been in this room for a long time, myself included, we got to try and show these guys the right way to play, even though we're an extreme long shot right now.
That's what they're going for. Doesn't mean they'll get there. Doesn't mean they're going to beat Vegas tonight. Actually, these final 15 games are going to be kind of rough from the competition standpoint, but it does mean you want to perform at a certain level to make sure that you're keeping things at a certain level. The last thing you'd want at some stage of this is for Ville Koivunen and Rutger McGroarty and Harrison Brunick and whoever else to show up in Pittsburgh, and what's in Pittsburgh is just a shadow of what it used to be from the culture perspective. No thanks. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season. From Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Jacoby Andrew, who says, got a question, DK. I really want to see Tristan Jarry succeed. Do you think, with a strong end of the season and with Alex Nedeljkovic being on his way out, might the Penguins run with some combination of Jarry with Yoel Blomqvist, Philip Larson, or Sergei Murashov? First thing to bring up here, Jacoby, is that Ned's not on his way out. I'm not sure. Maybe you were under the impression that he was on some sort of one-year contract or expiring contract. He's not. He signed a 2-year deal last summer. So both Jarry and Ned are signed through next season. Now, as this season just showed, that doesn't mean that you're locked into playing just those two guys. Complicates things, puts a burden on the cap, but you can still work other people into the mix, including, notably, the prospects. My belief is that for these final 15 games, you're going to see these two guys. And I get that. I get going with Jarry and Ned the rest of the way. A couple reasons for that. One, if Jarry were to continue playing the way he did in St. Paul, and that's asking a lot because he was really, really good, you just might find someone to take his contract. Or, yeah, don't make me say it, but another 3 years remains on that deal. And I'm going to say something here that I didn't even say on yesterday's show, but this is after watching video of Jarry's performance, which always has a different feel to it than watching in person. For better and worse, that runs in both directions. But that was probably the best goaltending the Penguins got in any game all season. That's not a shot at anybody else, including Jarry's own performances. It's just that he was that sharp. He was that big. He was that square to the shooter. He was that in command. And heaven knows those traits I just listed have been in short supply through the first 67 games. As for Wilkes-Barre Scranton, now you're looking at a team that's got a realistic chance, I'd say, of winning the Calder Cup. They're a top 5 team in the league's overall standings. They've not only beaten some of the AHL's best, they've clobbered them at times. And if they, as a collective, and the goaltenders as individuals, depending on how that workload breaks down, can make themselves a nice run in the playoffs, that's a plus. I've said previously that I don't see that as a priority over getting development time in the NHL, but it's nonetheless a plus. And now that Murashov is up from Wheeling, he can weigh into that as well. So no, I really don't think you're going to see any sort of cycling of the young goaltenders over the final month and change of this NHL schedule. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll do another one of these tomorrow.